look at an example like number 7. On number 7, we want to get the tangent by itself. So what we're going to do is we're going to subtract 2 from both sides. And that leaves us with 2 tan of theta is equal to negative 2. Divide by 2, and we just get the tan of theta is equal to negative 1. Okay, all I did is solve for tan of theta there. Raise your hand if you have a question. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is we want to find the tan inverse of negative 1, okay? And we're going to put that in our calculator. If you do not have a calculator, you need one, so get one now, please. Raise your hand if you can tell me what we get when we take the tan inverse of negative 1. What do we get? Negative 45. Is that what everybody else got? Okay. All right, so for those of you who maybe were getting a calculator or just maybe just to refresh you, what we just did is in our calculator we pressed second tan, negative 1, enter, and it gave us negative 45 degrees. Now, negative 45 degrees is not an answer. It's not one of our thetas because we can't have a negative. By the directions, it needs to be between 0 and 360, which means it can't be negative. So what we're going to have to do is draw this on our graph and see what positive angle corresponds with that negative angle. So if we rotate negative 45 degrees, that's here. Oh, and don't forget that all students take calculus. What all students take calculus means is that in the first quadrant, all of them are positive, which means sine, cosine, tangent are all positive. In the second quadrant, only sine is positive. So that means cosine and tangent are negative. In the third quadrant, only tangent is negative, which means sine and cosine are positive. And in the fourth quadrant, only cosine is negative. I'm sorry, only cosine is positive, which means sine and tangent are negative. Okay? So are we looking, is our tangent negative or positive? It's negative because this is negative 1. We're saying the tangent of theta is equal to a negative. Well, the tangent is negative in the fourth quadrant, and what other quadrant is it negative in? The third, right, because it's not negative here. All of these are positive. And right here, the t means tangent is positive, so by process of elimination, it has to be in here. Okay? And the angle here has the same reference angle as our original angle. And what's the reference angle of our original angle? I'm sorry? The reference angle is 45, right? Because this is 45, but this angle, and I'll use red, what is the measure of this first angle? Actually, what is the measure of that? Its theta is equal to 360 minus our reference angle, which is 315. That's the red angle. Do you see that? And that is one of our answers. The other answer is this purple angle, which is right here. Now, how do we find out the measure of this angle? Good. Raise your hand if you don't know why she just said 180 minus 45. It's okay for you not to know 180 minus 45. The reason she said that is because she knows this all the way to here is 180, and she knows this reference angle is 45. So this purple angle that we have highlighted is just 180 minus 45, which is what? 135 degrees. Are there any questions here? Okay, let's look at number 10. Yeah. Okay, don't let number 10 scare you because it is, because you have two signs, okay? We just subtract sine from both sides, sine of theta from both sides. And that gives us 4 sine of theta is equal, or minus 2 is equal to 0. We'd add 2 to both sides, so that's 4 sine of theta is equal to 2. All we're doing is solving for sine of theta. Do you guys see that? divide by 4, and we get the sine of theta is equal to 1/2. Any questions? So now we just need to find the sine inverse of 1/2. Patricia, did you have a question? And what's the sine inverse of 1/2? Is it 30 degrees? Do you know how I knew that off the top of my head? On the unit circle, right. On the unit circle, I know that at 30 degrees, the second sine is 1/2, which you guys know that too, right? Okay, but we're not always going to be able to do that because we know we have some crazy decimals in here. But that's a way to check yourself sometimes, okay? So let's draw our little all students take calculus, 30 degrees. Now, is this going to be in the, are we looking for a sign that's positive or negative? Positive, because 1/2 is positive, right? And is sign positive in the second quadrant? Right. Just, but not the other one. So just the second. And what's our reference angle?
30.
30, perfect. And then what would theta be?
180 minus 30.
Good, 180 minus 30, which is 150. Any questions here?
Why is the angle
Well, we know it's in the second quadrant, right?
Yeah.
And we know that there's only one angle in that quadrant that has a reference angle of 30 degrees, which means we start here and we go this way 30, so it has to be that angle. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
You can ask more questions. Can you see that? I'm sorry. The brightness is getting crazy. Is that better? All right, any questions, guys? Are we ready to move on to today's notes?
No. How do you do the decimal?
Well, they're actually just the same way we do the other ones. So, like on number 2, we would just say the cosine inverse of negative 0.3762. And what does that give you? Will you do that on your calculator, Alexia? Please. Oh, man. Oh, that's beautiful. Look how clear that is.
Isn't it like that before?
All right, what'd you get, Alexia? Did everybody get that? 108. Did you get 108 point? I don't know if that's what I got, Alexia. Did you put second? Oh, wait, I haven't done this problem. Did y'all get 108? I changed the problem, so on my key, the answer is different. Will someone else put this in their calculator?
Got it.
Cosine inverse of 0.
It's 112.1.
112.1? Okay. Now, Alexia, look here. This is Alexia's problem, so please try not to shout out the answer, okay? I do appreciate the support. Alexia, remember that all students take calculus? Okay, now are we looking for cosine to be positive or negative, Alexia? The reason it's negative is because, do you see how this says the cosine is equal to a negative? It's what it's equal to. It's this number, which is here. If that's negative, then we're looking for negative, for cosine to be negative, right? So we look at our graph, and do you see, where do you think that the cosine is going to be negative here? Well, C means, the letters refer to what's positive. A means all of them are positive. S means just sine is positive, so cosine is negative here, which we knew, that's why our angle's there. Now this one, tangent is positive, which means what? That means that cosine is negative here, okay? So it's going to be in this quadrant. All right, Alexi, let me ask you one more question. Do you know what this reference angle is right here? Close to that, something like that. A little bit less. How could we find out exactly? Subtract? Subtract what from 180? Yeah, we can do 180 minus 112.1, and that gives us what? What does that give us? 67 point what? Okay, so this is 67.9, which means the reference angle in this third quadrant goes 67.9 degrees, right? So what is the measure, and I'll do it in purple, of this angle? Alexi, could you tell me that? Can you see it from here? All right, you ready? Here we go. We're going to start. How many degrees is it here? And then, how many more do we go? And this could be drawn better. How many more do we go? Right. So what is that total? So you'd say 180 plus how much more? 67.9 more. And how many degrees is that? $247.9 degrees. Okay? Now these are our two angles. 67.9 is not theta. That's just a reference angle. That's just something we needed to assist us in finding theta. Are there any questions? What we're doing today is very similar to this. It's like this. It's just one little bitty more step before it, okay? All right, I'm going to pass out the handouts for today. Okay, 3, 2, 1. There's not a secant, ladies. Unfortunately, there's not a secant button, okay? But what we do know is we know that the secant is equal to what? Yes, sir.
The reciprocal of cosine.
Right, right. And similarly, cosine is equal to the reciprocal of secant, right? So this is the same thing as just saying the cosine of theta is equal to 1 over 1.73. Right? So it's just one little more step, and there's one other thing after this too, but this is just one little step for right now. So we would just put in our calculator cosine inverse of 1 divided by 1.73, and what is that equal to? That's an S with a negative 1. Cosine inverse. Okay?
54.7.
Did everybody get 54.7? Okay, so now what?
Wait, what do we like round to on these?
Nearest tenth of a degree. So let's draw our little, and remember that all students take calculus, and we're right here at 54.7 degrees, correct? And what quadrant, Patricia, what quadrant is our other angle going to be in?
Not S. T.
Okay, do you know why you picked T?
Because you said it earlier.
What are we looking for to be positive or negative? Okay, what's positive? We want cosine to be positive.
Yeah.
Now, in this quadrant where the T stands for only tangent is positive, do you think that's the quadrant we're most interested in? No. Which one?
C.
It's the C, because this means only in this quadrant are all the cosines positive, which means, and we know that, that means all the x values are positive, right? When you go to the right, those are positive, okay? So, and we also want the reference angle to be what, Patricia? We want the reference angle, What'd you say? The reference angle is this angle right here, which we saw is 54.7, right? So we just want to go rotate this way, 54.7. So it's going to look maybe something like this. Now, how do we find the measure of, now let me graph it this way, this angle, Patricia? I don't think that's going to do it for us, because if we did that, then that answer would be in that third quadrant. Now, do you know how many degrees it takes us to get all the way around one full circle? Right, but what is this angle right here? Right, so in order for us, so that would leave us, we could use that information to find just the purple by saying that theta is equal to 360 minus 54.7. 324.7. I would use your calculator, maybe.
I did.
Oh.
It's 305.
Yeah, 305.3.
Okay, let's make sure she put it in her calculator. All right. Do you see that, Patricia? Are we good? All right. Are there any questions on number 1? Okay, these are no different than the problems we've been doing, are they? All right, so on number 2, this is actually the sine of theta is equal to 1 over negative 1.25. Do you guys see that? So then this would be sine inverse is equal to 1 divided by negative 1.25, which is what?
Putting it on my calculator.
Okay.
I got negative 53.1.
Is that what you guys got? All right, is 53.1 going to be one of our angles? No, because we can't have a negative angle. We do need to remember that all students take calculus. 53.1 just means we're going to rotate this away, right, like that maybe. And so we're looking for a quadrant where what is negative? What do we want to be negative, Caroline? Sine, good. And what quadrant, Allie, is sine negative? I'm sorry? And what quadrant is sine negative? Okay. Can I show you how we know? And it has to do with the fact that all students take calculus. Okay, in the first quadrant, all are positive. In the second quadrant, only sine is positive. In the third quadrant, only tangent is positive. And in the fourth quadrant, only cosine is positive. Which means in the fourth quadrant, sine is negative, which it is, and that's what we knew and wanted. Now there's one other quadrant where sine is negative. Can you tell me which quadrant that is in? Third quadrant. Why'd you pick the third one? Because you like it. All right, I'm going to need a better explanation. Jada. Allie, go ahead. Okay. All right, I'm glad you know. The tangent, if this is only tangent is positive, that means the sine and cosine are negative. Do you understand? If this is all is positive, then sine's positive too. This says sine is positive, then sine's positive, and we want sine to be negative. Also, think about it like this. This is plus plus. This is minus plus. This is minus minus. And this one is plus minus. And only in this quadrant and this quadrant are the second or the signs negative. Does that make sense, Allie? All right, so, Allie, how do we find, we know it's in the second quadrant. What is its reference angle going to be, Allie? Do you know what this angle is right here, Allie? What is it?
I don't know. I really don't. I don't know.
Okay. This angle right here is 53.1. Do you see that? We started here, we rotated 53.1 to get here. Now this reference angle is also going to be 53.1. we're looking at two different angles here. This first one, which we start here and go all the way around to here. Okay, and can you tell me what the measure of that angle is? .360 minus our reference angle, which is 53.1. Okay, and what does that give us? 3 what? 06.9. Okay, and then our other angle is the one that we just looked at that goes here and stops here, right? Now this one is going to be how many degrees?
270 minus.
You could do 270 minus something, or you could do 180 plus your reference angle, which is 53.1, correct? And what did you get there? Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, my bad. 233.1. So our two angles are 306.9 and 233.1. Are there any questions? Yes? Sometimes you're going to have one, sometimes you're going to have three. In a second, we're going to see one that has 5. Okay, we're going to do one more. Let's go ahead and look at, let's look at number 5. So this is 1 over the sine of theta. I'm sorry? You want to do 6 instead? I can't hear you? Oh, sorry. So, sorry, this is, the sine of theta is equal to 1 over negative 2.43. Okay, so sine inverse is equal to what? Guys, I need y'all paying attention, please. No. So now we're going to do sine inverse of 1 divided by negative 2.43. And what does that equal to, Allie?
What?
Do you need a calculator? Would you put that in your calculator, please? I want her to put it in her calculator. Sorry for those of you listening on the video, we're having some technical difficulties.
I'm so weak.
Good. Did everybody else get negative 24.3? Okay, now, Allie, girl, we are not allowed to have a negative angle. So what we're going to do is we're rotating negative 24.3, and then we're going to have to find the positive angle that corresponds to that negative angle, okay? I'm sorry. So we know that all students take calculus, and this positive angle, in order for us to find it, it's actually like this one that we're looking for right here. Do you know how we could find that one? We're going to have to take the full circle and subtract that angle, right? So that means that theta is equal to 360 minus 24.3, and what's that equal to? 335.7 or 335.7 degrees. Okay, that's that pink angle, that dark purple pink angle, whatever. Burgundy, thank you. Now, Allie, do we want it to be, do we want sine to be positive or negative? is sign positive or negative in this problem?
Thanks, Al.
You are not allowed to steal my words, okay? So, do you see right here how this says sine of theta is equal to negative, and right here negative? That means it's negative. So what quadrant is that, Allie? This is Allie's problem. Thank you. You have to say her name so many times so people don't try to steal her answers. What quadrant? What quadrant? What quadrant? And what quadrant is the sign negative? Why? What did I say last time? What does this T mean? Okay, the T, the purpose of this T here is telling you, hey, in this quadrant, the tangent is the only thing that is positive, so everything else is negative. That's how you know that sine is negative here. Do you see now? Okay. It's going to have the same reference angle as this angle, which is 24.3 degrees. All right, so now we're looking for this angle, and what is the measure of this angle?
204.3.
Theta is equal to 180 plus 24.3, which is 204.3. Okay, any questions? All right, I need everybody to take a deep breath in and out. All right, let's look at number 10. All right, on number 10, we are going to, I know you think I make up these things to torture you, but it's like your course of study, so just keep that in mind. On number 10, we're going to treat this like a quadratic equation. Please listen. Ladies, a quadratic equation such as 2x plus 3 times x minus 5. All right, in this quadratic equation, if we wanted to solve this, we would set both of these factors equal to what? 0, right? Well, that's what we're going to do here. We're going to factor this and then set them equal to 0. So what's the GCF between 2 sine theta, cosine theta, and sine theta? 1, and there's something else that are in both of those terms. Sine of theta, good. So we're going to factor out a sine of theta, and that leaves us with 2 cosine of theta plus 1 is equal to 0. Do you see that we now have two different terms? We're going to set each of these terms equal to 0. So we'll have sine of theta equals 0, and then we'll have 2 times the cosine of theta plus 1 is equal to 0. Exactly what we did last night, or, on Friday. So this is going to be the sine inverse of 0, and what's that equal to? 0, okay? Now, we talked about this earlier, but we're going to talk about this again. If we look here, this is 1, 0, 0, 1, negative 1, 0, and 0, negative 1, right? Where is theta 0? Where is sine 0? At 0, and where else? It's 0 here, and how many degrees is this?
180.
So theta can also be 180. What else can, theta can be one more thing. 360. But they're two separate angles. Think of it this way. Maybe think of it like you're thinking about it like it's a race. You start here, and you give Murphy a high five when you start, and you come back around, and you give Murphy another high five when you're back around. It's the same spot, but it means two different things. Do you understand? Yes? Just anyone, yeah. Okay. All right. All right. So 3 answers here. Now let's look here. We need to set this equal to 0, so we subtract 1. And then we would divide by 2 and get cosine theta is equal to negative 1/2, right? So then cosine inverse of negative 1/2 is equal to what? 120 degrees. All right, so all students take calculus. 120 is about right here. Now, is our cosine, Alexia, is our cosine positive or negative? Alexia. Is our cosine positive? Do we want it to be positive or negative? It is one of the two, yes. Again, one of those two is correct. What does this say? This says cosine of theta is equal to negative 1/2. So that's how, do you see that? And I've been highlighting that. I've been trying to highlight that every time so that we don't forget. It's what you put in your calculator. If that's negative, then it's negative, and if not, it's positive, okay? Excuse me. So, Alexia, in what quadrant is the cosine negative? In the first one, actually, all of them, including cosine. So just all of them are positive. So, not that one. All right. Do you know why in the third? Well, we know it is in the second because we already have an angle there. What? So in the third, tangent's the only one that's positive, so that's why we know cosine is positive here. And remember, it's going to have the same reference angle, which is, excuse me, this reference angle right here, do you know what that is? 60 degrees, right? Okay. So this would be theta is equal to 180 plus 60, which would give us what? 240. Theta is equal to 240. So your answer would be 240 degrees as well as 120 degrees. Okay, what were you saying, Jada? That's very kind of you. Thank you. Your homework for this evening is going to be number 7, 8, and 9. So I'm not, hey, you have a quiz on Wednesday? You have a quiz on Wednesday.
Isn't it Monday?
It is.